Hello everyone, welcome to another anime seasonal discussion video, or whatever you wish to call it. Today we'll be looking at the Winter 2016 season, which is the one that is coming up, assuming you're watching this when it is coming out. This season is a bit of an interesting one for me, mostly because there's a lot of things coming out that sound like they could maybe sort of be interesting, kind of, but not many things that really stand out as, oh my god, this right here is going to be the bee's knees. We don't really have much of that except for maybe one or two shows. But who knows? I mean, something here that only sounds like it could be okay could easily turn out to be something great. So, without any further ado, let's get started. First up, Assassination Classroom Season 2, which I'm really looking forward to. The first season of Assassination Classroom, I don't want to say it took me by surprise, but it was something I wasn't necessarily expecting to enjoy to the same level that I ended up enjoying it. It really turned out to be a very charming show with a lot of, how should I put it? A lot of purpose, I guess you could say, behind each episode. There was always some sort of idea it was bringing to the table, some sort of lesson it was giving you in each episode, and I really did like that. And I am a little bit surprised in hindsight that it resonated with me as much as it did, because a lot of it is focused on critiquing the Japanese school system, at least that's how it appears. And you wouldn't think something like that would mean as much to somebody outside Japan, but I don't know, it really worked for me, and I think the characters definitely helped with that. Some of them, I mean, you have a lot of background characters that do nothing, but a lot of the ones, that are named, that actually have episodes devoted to them, are actually very likable and enjoyable. And I mean, especially Koro-sensei, obviously, but that's a given. I heard it rumored that this season was going to be 25 episodes. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think that would be pretty cool. That would be longer than the first season by 3 episodes. And hopefully if they have that much time, hopefully they'll be able to focus more on Koro-sensei's past and what exactly his ultimate, what the reasoning behind his ultimate ambition is. Because we got little bits and pieces of that in the first season, and it is kind of interesting from what we've seen. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that revealed over time. I don't know how much of the source material will be left after this is done, so I don't know how long the source material is, so maybe this will adapt at all, maybe it'll only adapt a fraction of it. So if it's the latter, we probably won't get too much as far as his backstory, but hopefully at least something. So yeah, this should be a good sequel, and I am looking forward to it. Next up, Durarara X2 Ketsu, or Durarara times 2 Ketsu, or Dur times 2 Ketsu, or the third core of the second season of Durarara. Whichever name you prefer. I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, it's more Durarara. I did like the other two cores for this season, but I am a little bit concerned considering this is the last one, and most of what the past 2 cores did was serve as build-up, which is fine. I mean, obviously you need build-up, but I would have liked to have seen a little more progression and at least see some things resolved. But I mean, knowing how Durarara operates, I'm not surprised it's trying to have everything kind of just collide at once. That is, in some ways, part of its gimmick. So we'll see how that all turns out. Hopefully there won't be any more new characters introduced, because there's so many freaking characters in the show. I mean, the last core didn't introduce all that many, which was nice, but yeah, no more new characters. As much as I do like a lot of the characters, There doesn't need to be any more. There's way too many running around to keep track of. The hardest thing with Durarara is trying to keep track of all of the interactions between the characters, what each of them knows, what each of them doesn't know. I mean, it's ridiculous sometimes. And I really don't need that to be any more confusing throughout this core. What is kind of interesting is that after this, Durarara is going to have, I believe, 64 episodes. Counting, all the OVAs, the first season, all the cores of the second season. Assuming this one does not get an OVA, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did, considering the past two cores did, which would give it 65, which is just insane when I think about it. I mean, who would have thought Durarara, of all things, would get that many episodes in the end? I mean, who would have thought it would get a second season to begin with? I mean, obviously it needed one, but I don't know. So many things have been getting second seasons lately. I mean, freaking Berserk and Full Metal Panic, of all things, are getting continuations. Excel World's finally getting a second season. Like, it almost makes you think anything can freaking get a second season. Hopefully that's true. But, yeah, I mean, it's just weird to think it's that long. It's going to be as long as Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's freaking ridiculous. I mean, like, it's cool, but, like, it's going to be so difficult to try and get somebody into Durarara after it's all done. I mean, with how the show is structured, with how many episodes it has, I mean, at least with some other shows around that length, like with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Monster, which is at 74 episodes, you can more so justify it, but Durarara, I don't know, as much as I like Durarara, I could definitely see somebody being resistant to getting into it because of how it's paced, because of how things are. For someone to just start out and have to trudge through 65, potentially 65 episodes, I could see that being a big deterrent. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's been that much for someone who got into it when there was only 26 and then has watched the other two cores more or less as they came out. And to now have all of this built up all of a sudden, I don't know, it's just weird to think about. But whatever, hopefully anyone who does try and get into it once it's all done doesn't have too many issues. Because it is a good show. Not perfect, but it is definitely a good show and one worth checking out. More sequels. Snow White with the Red Hair Season 2. I have still not seen the first season of this show, but I do plan to. Even though recently I have noticed more of a... what's the right way to put it? Concern over shoujo, but this still does look pretty cool. Hopefully I'll end up liking it. I'll probably check out the first season when the dub comes out in January, since Funimation's putting up the first season and I believe the OVA online then over the course of the month, and then they'll be doing a broadcast dub for the second season, which is really cool. I didn't expect that. I think they're probably trying to make up for the fact that they only did 3 broadcast dubs over the summer, and the first season obviously was not one of them. And 3 is very little for them to do. I mean, every season except for the first one, which was fall 2014, they did a lot more than just 3. But yeah, I'm guessing something must have prevented them from doing more. And this was probably something they wanted to do but couldn't. And so now they're doing it now. Though I have to question why they did Sky Wizards Academy over this or something else from that season. But whatever. Don't really have anything to say on this because I have not seen the first season. But hopefully it's good. Hopefully I like the first season. And hopefully I like this. Moving on to probably the most anticipated non-sequel series from this season, which is Erased, or Boku Dake ga Inai Machi, if you want to have to say a title that has more than 2 syllables. This sounds very interesting, as I'm sure most people feel the same about that. I mean, the time travel aspect, time travel is always a very interesting subject because you can handle it in a lot of different ways. Especially, anime. I mean, anime's handled time travel very well in the past. I mean, Steins Gate, obviously. Um, it sounds like it's going to have a decent amount of mystery behind it. At least based on the synopsis. Not so much in an episodic sense, at least not necessarily. I presume it's going to get into the plot pretty quickly based on how the synopsis is worded, because it talks about him going back to the past. No, I mean, apparently he's done this a lot. He's gone back in time. He has this ability to do so and to save people before catastrophes or their deaths have occurred. And he just keeps going over and over and over again until he's able to prevent it. But then one day he gets framed for murder because things just go wrong while he's trying to prevent an accident. He keeps going back in time to save this victim, but eventually he finds himself as a grade schooler before one of his younger friends from back then went missing, and now he's going to go and try and save her and prevent her from disappearing. So that's where the mystery aspect will probably come in, but at least based on the wording, it sounds like that's going to happen pretty quickly, unless they want to have like an episode or two of setup. But I doubt it'll be like episodic stuff and then the plot. It'll probably get into it pretty early on. But yeah, I mean, that sounds really interesting. It sounds like it could be really cool depending on how they go with it. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully it turns out well. Next up, this one could be interesting. Like, really, Erased was the only new show from this season. Not counting any sequels. That really seems like it could be great right off the bat. And then we have a lot of shows that, like I said in the intro, could be okay, could be good, could be great. Who knows? We'll have to see. But now we're going to get into those shows. So first up is Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash, which is a fantasy adventure-y kind of show. And fantasy is always, it's kind of hit or miss. It really depends on the execution. I mean, for me at least, whenever a fantasy show happens, it really needs good world building. And when you don't have good world building, it just, I don't know, I have a lot of difficulty getting into it. And it also depends on just how out there the world is. So, I don't know. Me and fantasy have a weird relationship depending on the type of setting and how it's executed. But let's read the synopsis, because this one sounds kind of amusing. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Before Haruhiro, our hero, before Haruhiro has realized what happened, he was surrounded by darkness. But why was he here? Where was he? Or where was here? I can't talk right or read right, apparently. See, this was a bad idea. Even now, he still didn't know. Those around him were the same as him. No one remembered anything other than their names. And when they emerged from the darkness, the world that awaited them seemed like something out of a video game. Oh, so it's one of those kinds of shows. Oh, in order to survive, Haruhiro forms a party with the others, learns fighting skills, and as a soldier in the reserve force takes his first steps in the world of Grimgar. What awaits him there, he doesn't know. This is the story of an adventure born from the ashes. Well, that's where the title comes from, at least. I don't know about that video game aspect of it. I mean, you gotta be wary at those types of shows, because is this gonna be something good, like Log Horizon or Excel World, or is this gonna be like Sword Art Online? I guess we'll find out. It certainly sounds interesting. I mean, again, depending on the execution, it could turn out to be really cool, or it could turn out to be really meh. Hopefully the main character is interesting and not wish fulfillment. But yeah, let's see. I really do like the title, though. I think ash is a cool word to use. It makes me feel like it's gonna be fun, but we'll have to see. Next up, Myriad Colors Phantom World, which is another really cool title. If anything, if you can say anything about this season, lots of really cool titles for the shows. Definitely. So right off the bat, I should say, I'm only really interested in this show because it's done by Kyoto Animation. So at the very least, even if the story is trash, it should look amazing. And it very well might be worth watching just for that. So, I mean, naturally, I would hope it has a good story and good characters, but definitely worth keeping an eye on, if only because it's done by Kyoto Animation. The synopsis is pretty short. In the near future, spirits and monsters are in full sight. A boy leads a group of people with special abilities as they plot against a massive organization that takes advantage of a certain incident and eventually knows the truth about their world in the process. Kind of vague there, but okay. So yeah, special powers, which is not really rare for this type of show. And then there's an incident and they find out stuff about the world. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could definitely turn out all right, but with that vague synopsis, who the hell knows? So there's spirits and monsters, and they're in a world, a phantom world, with myriad colors about. And there's a truth that someone's gonna find out. And it's gonna be like, whoa, man. It's like revolutionary and stuff, man. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really know what else to say about this. At least the animation will be beautiful. And I don't know. I mean, this could turn out okay, could turn out not okay. Like most of the shows on this list. So let's move on to Dimension W. Dimension W. In the year 2072, the world's energy problem seems solved by a network of cross-dimensional electric field inductors, not conductors, inductors, coils that extract energy from a seemingly infinite source. Well, I presume it's not actually infinite, so that'll probably be part of the plot, figuring out what that source is. Oh no, it says what the source is. That source is the W dimension. Well, presumably it's not actually infinite. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a whole thing about the W dimension being depleted. Why would they call it W dimension and not Dimension W? Or why would they not call the show W? Like, why would the show be Dimension W if it's the W dimension? Wouldn't you want there to be consistency there? I don't know. And there's a fourth plane beyond X, Y, and Z dimensions. Okay. In this world, unofficial, illegal coils harness powers that the police can't hope to counter. So I would presume they'd be the ones depleting the W dimension, if that depletion is actually occurring. Dealing with these coils is the job of coil-hating. Aw, isn't that cute? He doesn't like them, but he works with them. Aw. Repo Man Kyoma, whose run-in with the unique coil android Mira leads the two to form a reluctant partnership. It sounds really cool, at least with the premise, but I don't know about the characters, because that whole, he doesn't like them, but he's got to work with them, and now he's forced into a partnership with one, and they both hate each other, but then they'll grow to like each other. That sounds really generic. The premise is cool. And that's why I put it on here, because I do like the idea of the premise. But again, execution could be weird. It could turn out to just kind of be depending on how things go. And if the characters are the reason why this doesn't turn out too well, I would not be surprised. But maybe they'll prove me wrong. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Sorry. I don't really know what else to say about these shows. I mean, they sound that I can sum the whole season up for the most part, aside from Erased and some sequels, as things that sound like they could be okay, but they might be good, but they might be bad, but they might be okay. That is this season in a nutshell. It's a shame because when I first looked at this season to try and get an idea of what was coming out like a month or two ago, I thought, oh man, there's so many things that actually sound like they could be really cool. And then you look into them a little bit deeper and you're like, and you just realize there's nothing all that revolutionary coming out. But what are you going to do? Not every season can be a masterpiece, as it were. So, the final show on this list, yes, that's right. Final show, that's it. Not all that much we're going to talk about. Is Girls Beyond the Youth Koya. Whatever Koya means. Another translation is The Girls Who Aim for the Wildlands. So, yeah, okay, interesting title. Again, very interesting titles this season. So this, from what I understand, it's a visual novel adaptation. I don't think the visual novel's come out yet, actually, which is kind of interesting, but visual novel adaptation about making visual novels, specifically gal games. So that is an interesting idea. You know, not just the visual novel about making visual novel, but it being about a gal game. Yeah, I mean, the thing with visual novel adaptations, you never know how they're going to turn out. They can turn out great, they can turn out Depends on how well they're going to be able to weave all of the arcs together and still give each character their own, time to be in the spotlight without it feeling like you're... How should I say it? You don't want to have these arcs feel like they're just there for the sake of being there. You want them to serve some sort of purpose or be really, really interesting on their own. Ideally, both, obviously. So I hope that the arcs in the visual novel aren't so separate from each other that it's going to be really difficult to merge them into one story. Or that in a situation where that is the case, that only a handful of characters get arcs and a number of other ones don't. But yeah. I don't know. It looks like it could be cool, but it also looks like it can be... The studio that is doing this hasn't really done all that much. And most of what they've done doesn't look like it's been all that well received. So that is somewhat concerning, but then again, who knows? They haven't done much. Maybe they have a lot of potential. Yeah. Visual novel adaptation. There's also an OVA for this, by the way. I don't know what the OVA is going to be about, specifically. The synopsis for it is exactly the same as that for the series. With, I think, a little bit different wording. But yeah, it's the same thing. I guess I should read the synopsis. Might as well, since I'm not really doing a good job of describing what this is. Boon Taro, that's an interesting name, doesn't know what he wants to do in the future. He does not have any kind of dream that he wants to pursue, so currently he just spends his days hanging around with his friends. Like most high school kids, actually, but okay. One day, his classmate, Sayuki, asks him if he wants to help with the development of a gal game. She says that she has become interested in his help after she reads one of his works intended for the drama club. So no, he is pursuing things. Maybe he doesn't care about it, but he is doing things. He's not just hanging around with his friends, clearly. Unless it's one of those things where he starts out like that, and one of the other girls is like, hey, you should do this thing with the drama club. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he runs into Sayuki. Buntaro doesn't know anything about Gal games, unsurprisingly, but Sayuki claims that she has the ability to make it a success. Can they make the game, and will it be a success like she claims? I mean, maybe. I don't know. You tell me, show. This is the story of youths taking a daring step into the unknown by making a Gal game. Yeah, I mean, I think the comedy is going to be a big aspect in how this show turns out. Because there is a lot of potential for good comedy here. But obviously, with comedy in general, execution is everything. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have much else to say on this. I mean, it could be good, it could be bad, I don't know. Girls Beyond the Youth, Koya. I guess that's a bit of a fitting name. I mean, if this is about them taking a step into the unknown and growing up and learning what they want to do with their lives, it's actually kind of a fitting name. I guess I am a little bit concerned about Buntaro, because I don't know how interesting he's going to be. If he's just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, so I'm going to just do nothing. I mean, he could be very relatable for a lot of people, because, I mean, most people in high school are like that, so I could see him being like that. I just hope that they don't try and make him too relatable, in the sense that he's, the type of character that has nothing and you're just meant to fill in the gaps with your own personality, a self-insert character. Because I mean, that's another concern with visual novels. You could easily have a main character that is just completely self-insert. It has no personality whatsoever. And I don't want that. I don't want a main character that's just nothing. So, I mean, like, maybe they could make that work if they put a lot of focus on the female characters and maybe took away a romance angle, which I highly doubt is going to happen with a visual novel adaptation, at least one like this. But I guess that could work. It wouldn't be the most ideal, but if they have no character to go on, because who knows how he is in the visual novel, and if they don't want to try and create one for him, maybe they could do that. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and he's a great character, and I really hope that's the case. So, yeah. That's it for shows, at least the ones that interested me enough to want to talk about them. There are a few other things that, again, could be okay, could be but those are the ones that stay out the most to me. The last thing we're going to be talking about is a movie, which is very, very anticipated, and has been anticipated for, God, like 6 years now? Or going on 6 years? And that is Kizumonogatari, Part 1, Tekketsu-hen, whatever a Tekketsu is. But, God, I think it has been 6 years since this was announced. And it's finally happening. Of course, this is the first movie in 3 movies. I think they're all going to be about an hour long, but I could be wrong on that. I know the first one's an hour long. I don't know about the second or third, but I think I read the second was 2, but I could be completely off on that. Don't take that, for fact. But this is the first part in the Monogatari story that we're somehow getting after most of it's been adapted. Because now that Koyomi Monogatari is getting adapted as like some sort of app thing, whatever, there's really only the rest of Owari and Owari Zoku, or Zoku Owari, wherever the Zoku goes in that title. I was honestly expecting this to come out after all of it was adapted and have the first part be the last thing we got to see, but no, we're finally getting it. Um, and I'm guessing Shaft is probably going to put a lot of focus on this and Koyomi, and once they're all done, we'll get the rest of Owari. But what I'm really interested in finding out about this, I mean, obviously what happens in it naturally, but I'm interested in seeing if this is going to act as a good introduction to the story, or at least a better introduction than Bake is. And a lot of this has to do with Nekomonogatari Kuro, or Nekomonogatari Black, because if you watch it in release order, you start with Bake, and then Nisei, and then Neko. But chronologically, Neko takes place in between Kizu and Bake. I mean, Neko is just boring as all hell if you watch it after Bake. Because Bake spends a lot of time recapping it and telling you about it during Tsubasa's arc. So when you actually freaking sit down and watch Neko, it drags so much because you already know what's going to happen. You already know so much about it. I mean, yeah, there's little bits and pieces like that you didn't know, but for the most part, it's nothing new. It's not all that interesting. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, the issue with that is the fact that when you watch in release order, you're already seeing the recap of it in Bake. So the simple solution would seem like, okay, watch it before Bake, because chronologically it does come before Bake. But watching Neko first would be a really awkward introduction to the story, because Neko just kind of throws you right into it. And so I'm kind of hoping that Kizu, with how it's executed, will serve as a good introduction to the whole franchise. Because if I were to recommend this to somebody, I really, like, as it is right now, I really don't know if I would tell them to do chronological or release order. Because Bake is a better introduction than Neko, but Neko is just not fun to trudge through after watching Bake. So if all of Kizu ends up being a good introduction, it doesn't just assume that you've seen everything going into it, then I would certainly tell people, no, don't do release order, do chronological, because then Neko could actually be pretty interesting if you haven't seen Bake beforehand. So yeah, that I am kind of hoping for. And I'm also excited to see more Shinobu, because as we all know, Shinobu is second best girl after Kaiki. Kaiki is most definitely best girl in Monogatari, and anyone who does not agree with that has terrible taste, as we all know. Praise be unto Kaiki. Praise be unto him. And that is about it. I mean, as I have said multiple times, so much so that it is becoming very repetitive. Lots of things that could be okay, lots of things that might sort of potentially be good, but not really anything that's standing out as, oh my god, this right here, man. This right here, you gotta fucking watch this. So, I know this video is shorter than the past two seasonal discussions I've done, but that's the reason why. There's just not that much to talk about. And if I were to talk about other shows, it would mostly be like a lot of the things I've said for the other new shows coming out that aren't sequels or related to anything else, which is just like, yeah, could be okay, could be bad, could be good, whatever. I mean, that's just how this season is. So, yeah. I apologize for not being more interesting with this video, but blame the season, not the man. Thank you all for watching, regardless. I hope you were able to enjoy this, and hopefully this has helped you figure out what you're looking to watch in the upcoming season. I would probably recommend, if you're going to watch things as they air, wait a few weeks, see how things get received, and then go into it. Unless you want to, because there are lots of things that on the surface sound like they could be okay. A lot of them I didn't talk about in this video. And I think if you're going to try and check out everything that looks potentially okay, you're going to be watching a lot of stuff. So I would say to save yourself some time, just wait a few weeks. I mean, if there are some shows like Erased, or any of the sequels that sound like they're going to be really, really good or something you really want to watch, go ahead, obviously. But anything that you're not really sure on, definitely wait on. Or really, I'd say any original series outside of Erased that you're not, like, confident that you're going to love, I'd wait on. And just see how it gets received by the general populace. And then, if it's well received, go into it, naturally. But I think trying to tackle everything that sounds like it could be potentially good would be a bit much. So yeah. That's really all I have to say on this season. Yeah. So take care. Again, I apologize for being unscripted, but that's how these things are. I guess I could script them, but they wouldn't be as fun that way. They wouldn't be as colorful. They wouldn't have the myriad colors of Phantom World that I want to instill in all of my seasonal discussions. And with that being said, I hope you all take care. I'll see you next time. Hopefully. Maybe you hated this video. I don't know. Please come back. Bye.